there. Welcome to this voice podcast. Is going to be featuring Bob Bluhm, myself, Kenner French. We're going to be talking about news for new business owners, a lawyer's podcast. It's going to be produced by Vast Voices, the social media outlet for vastsolutionsgroup.com, and me, Kenner French, the founder of that entity. And we're excited to be here with Bob Bluhm. Bob, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, then we're going to carry on. Go.
Okay. All right, Kenner. I've been a lawyer for over 30 years, and I started out as a trial lawyer suing people for a living. But then became very, very disenchanted with trial work and switched out of trial work into what is called asset protection law, where I now protect people from lawsuits. So I learned it from the inside, being a trial lawyer, seeing how judges and the courtroom works. And now I'm able to structure people using legal entities to reduce their liability and their risk of being sued.
I like that. So you're a bad guy, now you're a good guy. You're helping the little guy, the little girl, right, Bob?
That's right. We all believe in redemption, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Once again, my name is Ken French. So you talked about entities. Let's back up a little bit. Some people, because they're new business owners, might not know what an entity is. Let's start from even more basic than talking about an entity. What is a sole proprietorship, or sole prop, as they call it?
A sole proprietorship is when an individual person just starts a business. They don't file any type of entity with the state. They just start a business, whatever that may be. And the biggest characteristic of a sole proprietorship is that they are the business and the business is them. In other words, there's no separation between you and the business if you're a sole proprietor. And that becomes extremely high liability potential because if the business is sued, they're really suing you. They can take all business or personal assets or both. And if you are sued on a personal level, then certainly they can take your personal assets. But because you are the business, they can also take business assets. So it's a very high risk way of doing business.
So let's say, as an example, I'm a consultant. And I have a consulting arm over here under my name, I guess. And then over here, I have, my name, right? So are you saying if my company gets sued as me being a consultant, right? Let's just say I have a net worth over there in that sole prop, as you're calling it. Let's say it's $100,000. But over here, my house that I own personally is worth $1 million. Are you saying that even in my consulting firm, if someone slips and falls, they could sue me, let's just say, for $1 million and get my house because I have $1 million under my name? Is that what you're telling me?
That's basically correct, because once again, there is no separation between you and the business, and therefore all assets are on the table when it comes to a lawsuit, potentially seizable.
So me as a new business owner, I should look at other structures potentially. And you mentioned the term entity. So can you outline a few entities? Like here, everyone talks about LLCs, S corp, C corps. Can you outline what an entity is, and then some of the entities that might help me get away from those types of lawsuits I just mentioned?
Sure. An entity is actually a legal person. It takes on its own life in a sense. Because an entity can sue or be sued. It can borrow money. It can lend money. It can enter into contracts. It can do all of those things from a legal perspective that an individual person can do. So it's a legal structure or a legal person as opposed to a human person. But the good news is, once we set up an entity, and the examples of entities are what you mentioned, corporations, limited liability companies, limited partnerships, and many other types of entities as well. Once we set up an entity, that creates a separation between you personally and the business activities. So you have just dramatically reduced your risk in business by setting up an entity.
Gotcha. So it sounds like in almost all instances, would you say I should set up an entity, an LLC, an S corp, a C corp, as an example?
Yeah, as an example, but to give a carve out, for some people it wouldn't make any sense to set up an entity, and these are people who have very, very small businesses. It might be like a piano teacher. doesn't need to set up an LLC or a corporation to teach piano lessons. Someone who, knits a sweater or two every year and puts it on Etsy or Shopify, wanting to sell their one or two sweaters, they're not going to need an entity. It's just not worth it. But for most people who are investing in real estate, they may be doing e-commerce on a business scale. They may be trading, the futures markets or stock markets or Forex. These are people who have businesses. Obviously, a brick or mortar type of business is a business as well. And these types of businesses should definitely do business as an entity.
Gotcha. Okay. I should reset. By the way, my name is Kenneth French. I'm here with Bob Bluhm. We're talking about, new business news for new business owners, a lawyer's podcast. And the reason we're doing this is to help small business owners, kind of new business owners. And again, my name is Kenneth French. We're here with Vast Voices, the social media arm of vastsolutionsgroup.com, and Bob Bluhm. Bob, can you tell us a little bit more about your firm and what it is you do, maybe in a little bit more detail?
Sure. I'm the founding member of AssetDefenseTeam.com, or that's our website. Asset Defense Team LLC is the entity that we use to provide liability protection solutions to people who are typically business owners or investors, and they want to keep their assets safe from liability. They want to keep their personal assets out of harm's way. And so that is our specialty. We structure people to protect them from liability.
Got it. So then the question is cost, because we're talking about new business owners. Maybe a new business owner who might not have a bunch of money. Why should someone go to an attorney versus try it on their own using, LegalZoom, et cetera, et cetera? Thoughts there?
Well, LegalZoom is a service for creating an entity, but it does not provide any kind of legal advice. And the problem with the online services is that you typically go to these online services and it's a series of questions. Do you want this or that? Okay, you choose one. For most people, they're kind of, tossing a coin in the air. I don't know. Heads, I'll choose this. Tails, I'll choose that. But the problem is every one of these choices has very significant legal consequences. Do we want to be a manager-managed LLC or do we want to be a member-managed LLC? That has tax consequences and potential liability and control issues. What state should we set it up in? 31 states, an LLC is virtually worthless. It provides very poor, if any, liability protection at all. Only in a few states is the LLC going to give you liability protection. So we focus on the good states. The problem being that if you don't know these things, which you wouldn't as just a normal human being, you're going to get it wrong by using these online services. And then you can end up having spent money that is basically poorly spent because you have an entity that isn't going to serve you. We have to be very, very careful in the way we set up these entities, in the way we plan how to structure these entities. We spend a lot of time with clients in advising them as to how this should be done, how that should be done, really helping them decide based on the facts and circumstances of their particular case. So if somebody knew exactly what they were doing, I guess LegalZoom might be okay, or some of these other services. But the problem is you don't build a house without a blueprint. And the blueprint is what we provide.
I understand. So, and by the way, we're going to have, let's chat for another 10 minutes. Let's really hammer home what we can do to help new business owners. So, as an example, what's one of the issues that you've seen a new business owner miss and that it's cost them a lot of money or heartache, either one? Again, something that, you've seen of one of your clients, maybe your newer clients or someone else's clients, and they've completely missed the boat and they've really been hindered as a result of not getting structured, et cetera.
Well, many, many examples of that. We have a lot of people come to us who have an existing entity. Maybe they did go to an online service and set something up, and they had know in their gut that it wasn't done right. They just know. And so we review these entities, and we find that people will often make mistakes. They set up let's say, a single member LLC instead of a multi-member LLC, and they don't realize that certain states do not recognize single member LLCs as providing liability protection. So they chose wrong. And now they find that often when it's too late, when they have been sued, they find out that their LLC is not going to protect them the way they thought it would. Other examples, they structure it wrong in terms of who does what. Who should be a manager? Should it be manager managed? Should it be member managed? They set it up typically in the wrong state that will not give them any kind of liability protection. There are tax elections that we have to make with an LLC, and we can really make serious mistakes with tax elections. Certain types of businesses should elect this type of tax election versus another type of tax election. So we can really end up hurting ourselves badly in terms of how exposed we continue to be when we thought setting up an LLC was going to protect us from liability. And we can also have very negative tax consequences if we have not chosen the correct type of tax classification. So those are just a couple of the ways we see people make mistakes. If I could add to that, Kenner, is it all right to add?
Please do. Hey, we're having fun here. Go for it.
Okay. One of the other things we see people make mistakes with is they they create the LLC, but then they don't have what are called supporting documents. They don't have an operating agreement. They don't have a membership registry. They don't have minutes of an organizational meeting. They don't have various resolutions and other types of minutes. And these are very important documents to provide the liability protections and the tax savings that we would be looking for. So there are many, many issues involved. Most people who are starting a business really ought to focus on their business. Don't try to become a lawyer. It takes years and years to learn this stuff. And that's what we do. We take care of it for people so they don't have to worry about it. They can focus on getting their business started and growing their business.
That sounds like basically what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. You get what you pay for. If you want to get a Honda, you're probably going to pay a little bit less than if you're going to get a Mercedes. That's basically what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's right. And yet, if I could even make the analogy a little more severe, you're buying a lemon that's not going to run, that's going to cost you a whole bunch of money, but the car was really, really cheap. But it sits in the driveway because, it can't pass inspection or it needs a new engine or it needs this or that. And you spent money on something that's basically worthless, as opposed to just getting a solid car that is going to run all the time and is never going to give you maintenance problems and is going to do what you need it to do. So that's another more severe analogy.
Wow, got it. So I know you've talked about doing a 30-minute consultation. What exactly does one get for that 30-minute consultation that you're providing?
Well, we examine what kind of business do you have. Is this going to be an operating kind of business that generates income from the work you do, or would this be the kind of corporation that or type of business rather that is going to own a lot of assets? We structure things differently based on one or the other. So we get to know who the client is, what stage of life are they in, what are their goals, how big do they want the business to get, what tax needs they have. In other words, tax deductions are basically expenses. And we need to know, do they have a lot of medical expenses that we would like to deduct? Do we have other types of expenses? And all of those things go into the mix of how we might suggest that the LLC should be designed, or a corporation, or a limited partnership. They all do different things, and they're all geared and designed to do different things. So that is what we will do in a 30-minute session. We may ask, what assets are we trying to protect, or do we have any assets, or just what kind of vulnerabilities does the individual have? How serious are those vulnerabilities? And so those questions allow us to create basically a plan, a blueprint for how the entity should be structured.
I know our firm, vastsolutionsgroup.com, by the way, we do business all over the country, and a lot of our clients are real estate investors.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, 92% of our clients are real estate investors in some shape or form. So what would you suggest for those people who are maybe coming on board, brand new business owners, brand new into real estate? What do you suggest for them, generally speaking?
Well, start with an entity. Start typically with a limited liability company, because in order to buy real estate, you're going to have to sign contracts. You're going to sign a purchase and sale agreement. You might sign a brokerage agreement of some kind. And as a result, anytime you sign your name on a contract, you've just exposed yourself to liability. Why? Because you've made yourself a party to the contract. If the other party to the contract thinks you didn't fulfill it, they have the right to sue you now to enforce the contract or for money damages. So rather than getting yourself into legal hot water right from the start, you want to use an LLC or a corporation to use it to make the offers, to sign the contracts. That way, your LLC or corporation shields you from any kind of contractual liability. So right from the start, people should have an entity. If I could also add, Kenner, it gives them a sense of confidence that they know they're protected, gives them an air of professionalism, because if you're going to be dealing with seasoned real estate people on the seller side, they're going to expect that they would do business with an entity as opposed to just an individual. And so when there are competing offers, they're going to be much more interested in working with somebody who they know is going to approach this on a professional level, as opposed to someone who's out there just kicking tires.
I got you. Yeah. No one wants to do business with someone who's not going to be in business for a long time. I think an entity probably indicates that they're a real player in the business world.
Well, that's right. It does. And, the other thing that a seller takes into account is, if you're trying to buy real estate, is, look, does this person know what they're doing? If they don't know what they're doing, they're probably operating as a sole proprietorship. And that's dangerous for the seller, because if someone, doesn't know what to do, how to do it, the risk actually to the seller increases, because the deal can be messed up in numerous ways. So it's to the seller's advantage that you have that level of professionalism as well as to your advantage.
I understand. That's great. I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense. So, the outline of this podcast today, News for New Business Owners, the Lawyers Podcast. Again, we're joined here by Bob Bluhm, and my name's Kenner French. We're here basically helping new business owners. So give us some news, Bob. Give us some news about maybe that you've seen that you're going to see on the horizon, that we all will see on the horizon, or some new news about what is going on now for new business owner.
Well, taxes are a new news, that's for sure. The current administration is very intent on raising tax rates, letting the 2017 tax cuts expire in 2026. And as a result, small business owners are really in the crosshairs, likely to suffer significantly if we don't get you structured properly in anticipation of these increased tax rates. That's just one of many issues. There are also issues on the estate planning side. Similar things are going on in terms of estate planning, which means when you pass on, what assets you're going to be able to pass to your loved ones without having to pay a significant amount in estate taxes. So that's a 40% estate tax rate when it's over the exemption amount. And that can really hurt a lot of families. And that exemption amount is likely to be lowered in this new administration. So a lot more people will be paying estate taxes unless they take some steps to avoid it.
So yeah, that is news for new business owners, because I think a lot of business owners don't know that. What's really alarming, what you said, it's a very, very good point, that business owners, new business owners, maybe even more so, are in the crosshairs. And really, we're talking about Congress, about the IRS, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. So do I, as let's say a business owner, brand new business owner, do I increase my risk of audit because I have an LLC, S corp, et cetera?
No, you actually reduce your risk of audit significantly because the most audited schedules are Schedule C, which a sole proprietor would use to report their business income, or Schedule E, which is also heavily audited, and that's where a person without an entity would report their rental income as well. So it's much, much less risky to do business as an entity. The risk goes down significantly in terms of an audit.
Got it. Okay. So that makes me feel a lot better. So there, I guess basically what you're saying is it might make sense to, instead of going down the road of the sole proprietorship, it might make sense to do an LLC, S Corp, et cetera, et cetera.
By all means, yeah. But then once that decision is made, then loads of other decisions need to be made in terms of what that LLC or corporation should look like from a legal standpoint.
Okay, so as we get ready to wrap up this podcast, again, this podcast is Vast Voices, the social media arm for vastsolutionsgroup.com. We're joined here by Bob Bluhm. We're talking about news for new business owners, a lawyer's podcast. We're really talking about ways to help new business owners. So, Bob, obviously, I can tell from this conversation, you know a whole ton about ways to help new business owners. But if someone calls you or goes to your website, will they end up actually working with you? Or will they be passed on to, I don't know, a lower level administrative assistant? By the way, not to pick on lower level administrative assistant. Just truly wondering if that's the case.
No, they'll work with an attorney. They'll often work with either me or one of the attorneys on our staff who are very well qualified. But by all means, the key is that they will be working with an attorney who's very experienced in terms of entity structuring. They will not be passed off to an administrative assistant.
Once again, I'm not picking on administrative assistant
right.
in any way, by the way. And if anyone construes it as that was Bob Bluhm who said that on the podcast.
Thanks, Ken.
Kidding. Totally kidding. Okay, so how does one reach out to you or your staff or your website, whatever the case is, because you've given a compelling case, in my opinion, of it really does make sense to work with an attorney to put together a plan, a real plan, versus maybe going it alone. When I say a real plan, I'm talking about entities, et cetera, et cetera. So how does one get you?
And, you know, if you do go to these online services, you'll see in the fine print, we suggest you consult an attorney. If you go to the Secretary of State website to, you know, create an LLC or do the articles, it always says we cannot answer any legal questions. We advise you to consult an attorney. So they themselves will admit that they're without an attorney, really their services allowing you to create an LLC are you're pretty much on your own. Good luck with that. So, so Kenner, tell me again. Sorry, I think that was a bit of a tangent. Repeat your question if you would. I'm sorry.
No, that was great. I totally got it. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you repeated that because it really is important. How does one get a hold of you to get in touch with you or your firm?
Apologize. You can go to the website, which is www.assetdefenseteam.com. You could send us an email at info@assetdefenseteam.com. Or you could give us a call. The number is 855-502-7738. And that will ring the company. So we're happy to work with anybody, happy to answer questions for folks. And thanks for suggesting people get in touch. We're happy to help them.
No problem. This has been fun. I think people can learn a lot about asset protection, about entities, et cetera, from you and your team. This has been a good time, and I really do hope some people do take advantage of your offer of that 30-minute consultation. It's in line with kind of the freebies that I think make sense. And it sounds like we're belittling it, but that 30-minute conversation with you, it sounds like it would add tremendous amounts of value. Once again, my name is Kenneth French, Vast Voices. We're the production arm of vastsolutionsgroup.com. And today we're talking about news for new business owners, a lawyer's podcast. It's been a great time. We've been able to add value to new business owners. I think that people will walk away from listening to this podcast and know, in fact, that they're going to be well taken care of, not only for their asset protection elements, but also for their taxes. Thanks again. I really appreciate everyone for sticking by.